Hey everyone, Nick Yuskevich back with Daily Fantasy Winners for Week 13 of this NFL season. Going to do the usual, give you guys one of my favorite plays for GPPs at each position: quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, and of course defense. All right, let's get into it. So for quarterback, I really do like Tyrod Taylor this week. He's very cheap this week, much like last week. I believe he's maybe just slightly more expensive at $7,300 on FanDuel, pretty cheap on both sites. And so I was pretty surprised how cheaply he was owned, or how cheaply, excuse me, how just there were very few people that played him last week. And so, and that really surprised me given how cheap, given that he was like $6,900 on FanDuel. I understand the Sportsbook projection was pretty low for the Bills playing at the Kansas City Chiefs on the road and all that, but man, I mean, the Chiefs' defense has not been very good this year. There were a lot of sharps, I know, on the Bills' side last week. I do know that a lot of people, I definitely was very vocal about on Twitter that the benching of Tyrod the week prior was absolutely insane and completely the wrong move. There are a lot of issues with the Buffalo Bills, but Tyrod Taylor is near the bottom of the list when it comes to those issues. We're taking a lot more look at the O-line and the defense, certainly when it comes to Buffalo, but and just the wide receivers getting chemistry and all that and growing up there and all that. But in any case, just so, and I think, by the way, just for whatever it's worth, Nathan Peterman, he could still be fine or solid down the road. I just think that's completely on the coaching staff for throwing a rookie into the fire like that on the road with very little help on a supporting cast against one of the better pass defenses in the NFL. That was just insane. I don't know what the coaching staff was thinking on that one. But there have been a lot of really bizarre quarterback decisions from coaching staffs this year. So, but in any case, so we're looking at Tyrod this week. He only had 14 fantasy points last week against the Chiefs, but again, no rushing touchdowns, 1 passing touchdown. He's going to be better than that usually almost every single week, no matter who he's playing. We obviously know about his upside with his running ability, of course, as well. He's gone over 20 fantasy points multiple times this year. And I will just say, for the New England Patriots defense, for those who are saying the Patriots defense is a lot better right now, I think you're kind of the same people that were saying the same things about the Saints defense, and I'm going to get into the Saints in a little bit here when I get into the Saints defense when I get into one of my picks later on here. But I'm just keeping it to New England right now. Like, they're 31st still in yards per play allowed at 6.1 yards per play. They're dead last against the run still, and they're 24th against the pass. So they're slightly improved against the pass over the last handful of weeks. Well, the New England Patriots just played the Miami Dolphins with Matt Moore. They played the Oakland Raiders in Mexico City, and they played the Denver Broncos I know this is funny to say, but like the Broncos are much better off with Trevor Siemian. And for those of you that follow me know I've been saying that for a while. And last week's game certainly proved that, at least in the short sample. But in any case, the competition the Patriots are going up against right now, as far as the offenses they're seeing, are not very good. And so I just, this is kind of like a trap that you're falling into on the schedule standpoint. But secondly, and probably more importantly, the Patriots, like I said, they're still giving up yards. They are first in defensive yards per point. And they are first in overall yards per point, too, I should say. But it takes 19.3 yards to score a point on the New England Patriots. That is incredibly high and incredibly not sustainable. Usually, for those of you, again, for yards per point, I'll give you the very quick definition of it. For yards per point, they're usually regression metrics when they're really extreme. It's not that every team should be regressed to the exact mean in the middle. It's kind of like turnovers in the sense that, usually the better teams like the New England Patriots or somebody like that, they're going to usually be better in turnover margin than a team like the Cleveland Browns or something like that. That's true. But usually it should not be something that's insanely lopsided. There's going to be some regression involved with it. Yards per point, and just in terms of the basic statistical standpoint, that it's kind of the same philosophy. And so New England right now, they're a little bit fortunate right now with a lot of the turnovers that they've forced, and as far as kind of their bend but don't break style. It's just not sustainable for what New England's been doing. So maybe they're slightly improved because their yards per pass attempt allowed slightly improved, but again, the soft schedule and the yards is still pretty bad. So I think New England's defense has not been very good. And then the last thing I'm going to point out about this, if you look at this from a sportsbook perspective, New England right now at the sports books, they're favored by 9 points at the Buffalo Bills. So if you know anything about sports betting, you know it's usually, on average, it's 3 points for home field edge. And if you're switching from away to home or home to away, it's a 6 point difference because it's 3 points from away to neutral or home to neutral, and then you have to go from neutral to home or away, whichever way you're going. So it's usually a 6 point flip. So New England is on the road as a 9 point favorite, which means if this game was at home, this line is basically telling us that New England should be favored by 15 points at home against the Bills. New England was just favored just this past weekend against the Miami Dolphins by 16.5, maybe 17, depending which book you were at. I forget exactly where it closed at. But regardless, Buffalo is much better than Miami than a 1.5 or 2 point differential on a neutral field. Buffalo is much better than that. They're not insanely better, but they are, like, this line, for all intents and purposes, this line should be New England by 7. When it comes to being played at Buffalo, and it should be minus 13 if this game was in New England or Foxborough. 13, maybe 13.5, because 13 to 13.5, 14, those are key numbers in there a little bit. But no, this line is a little bit inflated at 9. This should be more like a 7, maybe a 7.5 at the very best. But I think anybody, if you were going to a sports book right now and you saw a line that Buffalo was favored by 1.5 or 2 on a neutral field against Miami, you'd be running to the counter to be betting Buffalo Bills right then and there. So in any case, I would point that out that this line is a little bit inflated. I would not expect New England just to waltz into Buffalo and destroy the Bills, kind of like how the Saints did a few weeks ago. I wouldn't be expecting that. Doesn't mean the Bills are going to win the game, certainly, but I do think this game will be actually a lot more competitive than people think, and it should be a good one and probably pretty high scoring. I think. I think both defenses are a little bit overrated, certainly. In any case, so that's my long ramble on Tyrod, so I'll make it a little bit quicker here for the other positions. Christian McCaffrey for running back. Enter the New Orleans Saints defense. And I kind of make the same argument here for the Saints like I did with the Patriots. A lot of people had thought that the Saints defense was actually all of a sudden pretty good and a lot better. They had played the Brett Hundley Green Bay Packers in Hundley's first start. They had played the Bears and the Buccaneers, the banged-up Buccaneers at home. And their one good performance was at the Buffalo Bills, like I said. That was an amazing performance by the Saints. I will absolutely give them that. But outside of that, their defense hadn't been very good, or it was against mediocre competition. Even when they played the Lions at home, when they beat them up pretty good, the Lions ended up scoring a lot of points against them, and the Saints gave up a ton of yards. And now, as we finally seen over the last 2 weeks, the Saints, they gave up a ton of points and yards against Washington. Somehow New Orleans found a way to win that. Washington blew it, and then of course the Rams beat the Saints last week as well. And so, and if we do take a look at New Orleans here on this stats page, it'll move, there we go. They are 20th in yards per play allowed, 29th against the run, 15th against the pass. So enter Christian McCaffrey here. Obviously, the 29th against the run's a very good thing. McCaffrey's yards per carry has been significantly better over the last 3 weeks. If you've been watching Carolina, they've gotten McCaffrey involved in a lot more looks in terms of options and jet sweeps and misdirection kind of stuff, which I love because Carolina's offensive line, again, really not good. And so Carolina has to get creative and get Cam. And they've been running Cam a lot more, which really is a lot better for McCaffrey because it makes the defense commit one way or the other. And if you know anything about Christian McCaffrey, he's got the home run threat territory. And there's going to be a game here sooner or later that McCaffrey just, he's going to rip off a couple big runs. And he's got that potential. And so that's good for him. And then I will just also say that right now, with the other receivers for Carolina right now, I mean, we obviously know Kelvin Benjamin's gone. Funchess is really the only guy. They have all the other injuries they're dealing with. Curtis Samuel being out for the year. Russell Shepard continues to we're dropping all the passes. Greg Olsen came back, but he's banged up and everything like that and pretty injured. And so who knows what that whole situation is. And so, look, I would just take a look at this and say McCaffrey is at a nice spot here, especially since he hasn't been kind of like the home run guy just yet. And his ownership usually probably won't be too bad. I don't think it's going to be too bad this week. Okay, moving on here to wide receiver with Jarvis Landry. This is going to be very quick for Jarvis Landry. If you take a look here on this sheet, this is targets. Here's Jarvis Landry. He is averaging 10.5 targets per game. That ranks number 3 in the whole entire NFL. I know that was slightly inflated when Devontae Parker was out, but it was not that much. Not as much as you might think. Landry is like he's 6,800 or 6,900 on FanDuel. He's in the upper 6K range. I had that written down. I don't know what happened to it. But anyways, Jarvis Landry, he is somebody I very much like this week, going up against the Denver Broncos at home, but also Aqib Talib suspended. And so Denver's going to be a little bit thin at corner this week. And Landry, it really doesn't seem like, regardless whatever the matchup is, Landry has a fantastic game and he gets a ton of looks one way or the other. And it doesn't matter if it's Jay Cutler or Matt Moore. He's been very consistent. And so I don't think he's going to get a ton of looks just because it's supposed to be a little bit of a lower scoring game. And I do think that some people will be looking elsewhere for some better options in that price range. And so, but definitely good upside when you're getting over 10 targets a game. On to tight end. I'll say there's two tight ends I like here. One tight end is just because I mentioned Tyrod Taylor. I think Charles Clay is a perfectly good option. He's been Tyrod's favorite target, certainly in the red zone. And obviously, like I said, I think Buffalo could put up some points this week. And the other tight end I'm going to say is Delanie Walker. I'm going to pull up the fantasy points per game here by position. If my Google Doc will load, that would be really frustrating if it freezes. There we go. Have to scroll down. Sorry, a little bit laggy here with the computer. Okay, whoa, come back here. The lag caught up. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, here we go. This is tight ends. And so I'll just point over here to the left to keep it simple. This is DraftKings rank here in column A. This is, column B is the FanDuel ranking. And if you take a look at Delanie Walker, he is 6th on the year in fantasy points per game on DraftKings, 7th on FanDuel. And if I scroll all the way over here to the right, you will see what Delanie Walker, sorry, this isn't showing very well, but right here, this is the row of Delanie Walker, row 217. You will see he's only caught one touchdown in the year. He finally caught a touchdown last week, and all of a sudden, it's like FanDuel jacked up his price from 5,800 to 6,400. It's like, oh, who didn't see that coming? You knew that was going to happen eventually, but I still think 6,400 is a very cheap price. I think a lot of people are going to be just paying a few extra $100, probably for like Travis Kelce or somebody else in that range. I'm sure some people will use Delanie, but again, Delanie Walker, for how often he's getting looks in the targets department and how consistent he has been, 11.57 yards per reception is very strong to go with how often he's getting targeted and catching balls. That's pretty good. One touchdown, still running bad. So I still think we're going to see some good positive TD regression there. Going up against the Texans defense that I believe is 29th, I want to say, against tight ends. Let me pull this up right here. 27th against tight ends right here in terms of fantasy points allowed. So 27th for the Texans. That's obviously not very good. And so, and then the Houston Texans defense overall, I will just pull up here. Which is right here. Texans defense, they've been really starting to regress a lot more as of late as injuries have taken a toll on both sides of the ball. But 24th in yards per play allowed, 7th against the run, and 29th against the pass. So Texans have really been struggling there. Titans are 7-point favorites at home. Give me Delanie Walker there for tight end. And then the last thing I will say as far as the defense goes, for my defensive pick, same team, Tennessee Titans. I'm going with the Titans defense. I will definitely tip my cap to Danny Steinberg as well in this one because we were talking a little bit earlier here, and we both agreed that the Tennessee Titans were a fantastic play at home. He was mentioning to me, obviously, that the offensive line is extremely banged up, and a lot of the people that are currently playing for them, they're like among like the worst graded offensive linemen on per Pro Football Focus. So they're extremely banged up. Obviously, you've got Tom Savage back there and not Deshaun Watson. That goes without saying. Titans home favorites and everything like that. It's just a very good spot for them. And obviously, a lot of people are just going to probably pay up for the Chargers defense at home against the Browns, and then a lot of people I'm sure will still be playing the Jags defense against the Colts. So I mean, they were monsters against the Colts in the first time, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to think they're going to be the same the second time for how often Brissett gets sacked and it's Saxonville and all that stuff. So there'll be a lot of people going there. So this will be a nice little pivot for everybody. I think it's the Titans defense. And Titans defense on the year, by the way, 9th in yards per play allowed, 5th against the run, and 10th against the pass. They've been pretty good. So and the last thing I'll just throw in on the Titans, I do think that they are being slightly undervalued in the marketplace right now when it comes to the sportsbook projections. Not insanely, but I think they're probably about a point to 2 points better than what they're being, kind of power rated as. I don't quite get it, and so it's a little overreactionary, I think, with the Titans. And I think they're making the playoffs actually pretty easily. They may not win the division just because Jacksonville's schedule is so easy, but Tennessee's going to get into the playoffs, I think. So in any case, that's it for this video. Thank you for watching as usual. Sorry we didn't get to anything last week during Thanksgiving devastating week, but we should be good to go here for the rest of the weeks to come and get you at least one video a week. If not, we'll get you 2 or 3 and all that. And so, anyways, thanks for watching as usual. I'm at Nicky Skevich on Twitter. Daily Fantasy Winners is on Twitter, at DFantasyWinners. And then if you like this stuff, please remember to like the videos and subscribe to the YouTube channel. All right, good luck, everyone.